Eleanor Gray, 58, retired Latin teacher, always took the 912 from York to Whitby to visit her sister. On a rainy November, Tuesday the train was canceled. The replacement bus would take 2 hours. She sighed, bought a ticket for the 9:27 to Scarborough instead, planning to change there. Simple. At Scarborough, the Whitby train was delayed indefinitely. Eleanor stood on the cold platform, clutching a paper cup of terrible tea, when a man's voice behind her said, "You look like you've been stood up by the entire Northern Rail network." She turned, tall, silver-haired, wearing an old barber and a half-smile she almost recognized. "Richard," she said, startled. Richard Patterson, her first proper boyfriend, summer of 1984. They had written to each other for a year after university. Then life happened. Marriages, children, silence. "Ellie Gray," he said softly. "Still hating buses, I see." They laughed the way people do when 35 years collapse into 35 seconds. His train to Hull was also late. They found 2 seats in the waiting room that smelled of wet dog and chips. Conversation came easily. Grandchildren, bad hips, the shock of discovering Spotify. When the Whitby train finally appeared, Richard stood with her. "I'm coming with you," he announced. "I'll get the next one back. One coffee and Whitby won't kill me." On the little 2-carriage train, they sat opposite each other like teenagers. Rain streaked the windows. Eleanor felt foolishly light. At Whitby station, Richard bought 2 paper cups of decent coffee from the cafe, and they walked along the harbor because neither wanted the visit to end. Gulls screamed overhead. He stopped by the railings. "I owe you an apology," he said suddenly. 1987. "I never answered your last letter. My wife, girlfriend then was pregnant. I panicked, thought a clean break was kinder." Eleanor felt the old hurt rise and, strangely, float away on the wind. "I'm married 6 months later," she said. "On the rebound. Lasted 9 years. We both chose badly out of fear." They smiled at the shared stupidity of a young. Richard checked his watch. "My train back is in 8 minutes. I should..." He didn't move. Eleanor took a breath that tasted of salt and chips. "Rich, do you ever wonder what would have happened if we caught the same train 30 years ago?" "Every single day," he said quietly. The departure board clacked. "Hull train, platform 2, 1403. Final call." Richard looked at the board, then at her. "I don't actually need to be in Hull tonight," he said. "I was going to see an old friend who canceled yesterday. I just kept the ticket. Habit." Eleanor felt her heart do something it hadn't done since 1984. "Come home with me," she said. "My sister's expecting me for lunch, but she always cooks for 6. There's a spare room, or the sofa, or..." She stopped, cheeks burning. Richard laughed, delighted. "Eleanor Gray, are you asking me to miss my train?" "Yes," she said. "I believe I am." They watched the whole train leave without him. 6 months later, on a bright May morning, Eleanor again stood on York Station, but this time Richard was beside her, holding both their suitcases. They were catching the 9:12 to Whitby together. Her sister had finally stopped asking questions and started setting in permanent extra place at table. As the train pulled in, Richard squeezed her hand. "Still hate buses?" he asked. "Only when they're on time," she said, and they boarded laughing like children who had, against all odds, been given extra time.